I'm the first to admit that being a zoo vet is the sort of cool job that gives you an edge when it comes to public presentations. All it takes is one picture of one of your adorable patients and you're guaranteed to get the toughest audience all saying, "Aww." TEDxPerth, meet the sunset frog. It lives in a very specialised little pocket of habitat right here in WA where it was only discovered in 1994. We had a breeding program for the sunset frog at the zoo, and as you can imagine, I was immediately captivated by its exotic good looks. Go with me here. He may not look all that special, it might look all business on top, but it is all party underneath. Sunset frogs have been around for over 30 million years. Think about that for a moment. That means that as a species, they have been dodging prehistoric giant wombats for much longer than they've been dodging cattle and feral pigs. This frog is a survivor. And yet, it's only about this big, and it will only move a few metres in its entire life. It has no idea that its tiny home range is becoming hemmed in by human encroachments that threaten its existence. Sunset frogs are very vulnerable and they're our very own. And that's why it matters to me that we conserve them. But the reality is that the future of this little frog rests with the actions of all of us, not just the fortunate few who have been won over by his delightfully impressive underbelly. So today, for once, I want to put the pictures aside and give you 3 other reasons it matters that you should fight the silence of extinction and act for conservation. Every species, every living thing has its abilities and its properties that inspire humans to bigger ideas, new visions, broader horizons, better solutions. Miracles occur every day in the living world, and I'm talking biblical-grade miracles here. There are insects that can walk on water. There are fish that can generate electricity, and spiders that can spin drag lines stronger than steel, and natural pharmacists like koalas who are producing probiotics to feed their young for millions of years before probiotics were even a thing. I can see you all processing that last one. It's in their poo. Still a miracle, right? Still a miracle. The thing is that biodiversity is a deep well of inspiration and potential, but it takes a hit with every extinction. Every species that winks out of existence takes its miracles and its secrets with it. And gone is gone. That's why it matters that we fight for every species and grudge every loss of that potential. And secondly, extinctions don't happen in isolation. The web of life, the interconnectedness of all living things is complex and intricate and gorgeous, but it's incredibly messy. And the one thing that you can say for sure about it is that the demise of any one species is going to have knock-on effects to a whole bunch of others. Take our love-hate relationship with insects. They're probably not front of mind when you think of things that are vital to your existence. And yet, the creepy crawlies are fending off our own extinction every day. 1/3 of the food that we eat every day relies on pollination, mainly by bees. Insects also do most of the soil conditioning that allows plants to grow in the first place, and they're critical to the breakdown of animal waste. So there you go. They're our linchpins, really, of our food supply, our waste management, and our carbon offsets. The web of life is woven out of DNA strands. We don't get to just wriggle out of our dependence on insects just because we feel like it. While we're made of the same stuff as them and every other living species, that's just not an option. So when I tell you that insect numbers worldwide are going through unprecedented decline because of our destruction of habitat and our use of pesticides, you can see that we're busily sawing off the branch that we're sitting on. Our failure to conserve the species that we depend on is bringing that silence of extinction closer to ourselves, and that's why it matters. When thoughts of insect Armageddons get a bit much for me, my immediate instinct is to retreat into nature. I'm a self-confessed environmental sook. I can get teary watching black cockatoos fly. I can go to my happy place just looking at the ocean because I know that somewhere out there are humpback whales. Humpback whales. Now, I realise that my emotional investment in nature puts me very much at one end of the bell curve. But, and this is my third point for you, it doesn't matter who you are. Your sense of humanity is centred on your emotional relationships with living things. As virtual realities start to push out our natural realities, it becomes so much easier for us to tune out without reacting and to react without feeling. Our contact with living, breathing, photosynthesising wildlife is such an important defence against those erosions to our humanity. And modern zoos take their role in reviving those emotional connections very seriously. We want all visitors to experience that moment of wonder that's not only soul food, but it also allows them to feel what we feel about the need to conserve biodiversity. So if you're not sold on my friend the sunset frog for its own sake, it doesn't matter. Think instead about the web of life that connects your fate. Consider the potential and the power that is within every species waiting to be discovered while it edges towards extinction. Remember the spiritual loneliness that's inevitable in a world that's depleted of biodiversity and make a decision to act. We need you to act for conservation because we're all affected personally by what is happening to our biodiversity, and we only diminish our power by getting selective about who joins the fight for the planet. And I, for one, will welcome you with open arms to that fight because I've seen firsthand that a few dedicated and passionate people who care desperately about an endangered species is just not enough to get that species across the line. In 2009, Christmas Island was making headlines as the epicentre of the asylum seeker detention crisis. But there was another crisis of livelihood going on there that didn't make the news. The island was in ecological peril from all sorts of human activities, from habitat destruction to feral pest invasions to unsustainable water extraction. And there were many unique and very beautiful species that were under threat, including the famous red crabs, several species of lizard, and one tiny bat, smaller than a golf ball, found nowhere else in the world, called the Christmas Island pipistrelle. In August of 2009, I travelled to Christmas Island with a group from the zoo to work on conservation of the lizards. And we were there at the same time as a group from Zoos Victoria. We're there trying desperately to bring the last of the pipistrelles into the protection of captivity. On the 26th of August 2009, which was my fourth night on the island, the Zoos Victoria team headed out in the evening as usual with their nets and their recording gear to try and track the pipistrelles by their echolocation sounds. That night, they managed to make a recording of just one single bat navigating its way through its collapsing ecosystem. The following night, on the 27th of August 2009, the Zoos Vic team went out again and they recorded nothing. I still remember the looks of defeat and despair on the faces of those people as they struggled to come to terms with what we now know to be the truth, that they had borne witness to the extinction of a species, and that what I'm about to play you now is the last recording of the last Christmas Island pipistrelle to have lived. Hear that? That's the silence of the first Australian mammal extinction in over 50 years. Perth is closer to Christmas Island than it is to any other Australian state capital. This happened in our backyard. Your world needs you. Find your way to change the silence. Thank you.